The Bullies are the most underrated enemies in Little Nightmares 2. These dastardly foes add so much suspense to the narrative. The teacher doesn't seem as ominous without her students looking terrified when she passes by. Their quick and sporadic movements can catch us off guard, but the main reason why the bullies shine is what they represent: a mindless husk with unlimited stamina, ready for control. They embody the perfect vessel for psychological manipulation. Puppet and mannequin imagery is everywhere in the Little Nightmares universe. The janitor makes what seems to be little puppets without strings. The hunter makes mannequins with skin, not to mention the doctor and teacher. So I started wondering if the imagery had any significance. Today, I wanted to talk about a new theory I have about the games, regarding the Thin Man and the Bullies. I just want to say a quick thanks to everyone who supported my content thus far. It means a lot to me. I have other Little Nightmares theories as well. If you wanted to check out any of those, links are in the description down below. I'm Very Berry. If you enjoy this content, like and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you always see my latest content. Puppets are usually some form of controllable item that humans can manipulate. Animals, children, pretty much anything can be transformed into a puppet. Using strings or other mechanisms, we can augment the expressions the dummy makes. Let's think about us, the player. We could be thought of as a puppet to some extent. We don't have any agency throughout the narrative. When I say agency, I mean our ability to change the course of events in the plot. So even though we control a character, that doesn't mean we can meaningfully impact the story. Both Six and Mono hurt others to achieve their ends. I didn't want to kill the runaway kid, but the game made me. Even the paths we go down seem constructed. One way to move forward. Clues on where to go next, not that we have a choice anyway. It seems like the Thin Man helped create the world of Little Nightmares based on the events in the second game, who we know is Mono. I feel like he represents this idea of puppetry the best. He constantly runs from an unavoidable fate. He doesn't want to be the Thin Man, but puppets don't get to choose their course of action. What's even more interesting is that Mono, despite his name, gets to experience multiple paths. He is the only character that gets to be both puppet and puppet master. Sometimes we think that if we play the game correctly, we could save Mono or Six, but this sentiment is our false sense of control. Their fates have already been determined by the one pulling the strings. Psychologically manipulating a population can be very difficult. There are so many factors to consider, and even one mistake can throw things into disarray. However, the payoffs can be massive depending on what your goal is. The best way to rule a population, in my opinion, is to set up a system of control. Seizing all the institutions of power can change people's perceptions of reality. A narrative or stats can be fabricated without any justification. Once you condition your population to respond to stimulus in certain ways, escape is not an option. By assuming control in this way, you can manipulate emotions. There are several ways to do this. Fear is usually the easiest. If a population is afraid of a certain person, then they can collectivize against this perceived threat. Deprivation of resources is another very effective tactic. When people don't have the necessary supplies, they will do almost anything to survive. We will see in the next section of this video how a lot of these tactics are the ones the Thin Man employed. This control comes with costs. Many people who have been abused or taken advantage of often have long-lasting repercussions in regards to their mental health. This control is so powerful, it leads to action. Let's say in Little Nightmares, the word around town is Mono and Six are pure evil. They should be killed on sight. When the school sells the exact same message as the media, how do you combat this message if it's untrue? Well, the answer is simple. You can't. This is why the world the Thin Man is designed is so pernicious. The characters in the games might assume they have agency, but there's one outcome in the plan. The Thin Man specifically designed the structures in the game to be inescapable. Oh, you made it out of the maw? Well, how about the school, the hospital, and the Pale City? And if somehow you manage to get through all of this, time resets anyways. He created a universe with one end, giving significance to the name Mono. The Thin Man's dream seems to be a straightforward one. Everything in the games is set up to control people. I believe there's lots of evidence for this theory in the different areas of the game. The school, the hospital, the maw, the Pale City, even the rural areas. All these places serve different purposes, but they want control just the same. The school wants to dictate the ideological messages being taught. The teacher will use fear to indoctrinate her students. The maw wants to control the guests and the gnomes. Its design is very structured and specific to ensure everything goes according to plan. On this death boat, we can see imagery of control everywhere. Some examples are the beds with restraints on it, children in cages, and watching eyes to kill escapees. Even the media is designed to captivate viewers' minds and strip them of their agency. They go into an almost zealous rage without it. A constant broadcast goes out so that these amalgamations stay focused on his message. No agency is left in any of the non-enemy characters. Everyone seems reliant on this control. The Thin Man has curated a perfect world to psychologically manipulate his followers. When anyone comes to threaten his power, he uses surgical precision to eradicate his foes. The viewers seem like the almost perfect vessel for the Thin Man. They follow his message mindlessly, even if it costs them their lives. However, just like with everything else that is living, humans die. His legacy is only as good as the people who inhabit his system of control. It seems like the resources in Little Nightmares are limited. You can see people storing water in the Pale City. If you think about the Maw, its purpose seems similar. With limited resources, eating humans can stop the existing population from dying. Everything seems worn down and dilapidated. Maybe humanity is at its end. It seems like he has a hold on the people for now. Once the resources dry up, he no longer has that leverage. But the Thin Man seems determined. He steals 6 and battles you multiple times to ensure his fate is secured. The biggest problem for him is that people can be susceptible to death and a change of perspective. But what if he were to have a vessel that could be easily recreated, completely controllable? His dominion could potentially last forever. This is where the Bullies enter this theory. A lot of characters in the game seem to be constructing things in their spare time. But why do they do this? Do they all just happen to like crafting? Or is there a reason? I think that because of the Thin Man's power and reach, the other characters are potentially trying to make a perfect vessel for him. Or possibly they are forced to. It's hard to say. With eyes always watching, and the power to augment reality, I imagine the other characters fear the Thin Man. The Doctor and Teacher seem like the two who are the closest to making a perfect creation. Let's start with the Doctor, and then we'll talk about why the Bullies are the apex creation. The patients in the hospital almost made me have an accident the first time I walked in. They're scary as hell and quick moving. However, it doesn't seem like they have much capacity for thought. They seem to mindlessly chase Mono, but not necessarily with a reason why. For the Thin Man's plan to work, he needs to have a specimen that has some capacity for thought. Mindless soldiers are strong, but the ones who can think are even deadlier. I think that the Bullies are the closest anyone has gotten to the perfect creation for him. One thing these enemies excel at is design. Their porcelain-like faces are genuinely disturbing. Not to mention these enemies are fast and mean, always active and rambunctious. They provide more value than something with stamina. When people eventually eat each other, there won't be many options for food, but a constructed child doesn't have this issue. Plus, if they are unwilling to listen, you can call them and start over. If the Thin Man kills enough people, suddenly there is no one left to use. The porcelain children seem to have similar thinking capabilities to a kid. The impressionable are often the easiest to manipulate. Tabula rasa is a psychological term meaning blank slate. Usually it's used when referring to the infantile, but also young children still developing. These children are the perfect vessel for the Thin Man to imprint on. Empty heads ready to be filled with teachings. Creating mindless children who can be mass-produced would be a better option than the very fragile humans. We see the teacher constantly tinkering and toying with human organs. Plus, with the child in the chess room, it seems possible that she created the Bullies and based it on that student. Let's talk about the Bullies' strengths. For one thing, they are pretty crafty. They stole 6 from Mono in a planned attack. They also hesitate when they fight, which could mean they are intending to fake us out. These 2 things alone are enough to warrant a pretty solid army. But the main reason why the Bullies are perfect for the Thin Man is their construction. Porcelain and ceramic aren't super hard to produce, and they don't take years of investment for payout. When multiple Bullies attack at once, it can be cumbersome to hold them all off, but this is on a small scale. We fight maybe 4 or 5 Bullies max at one time. An army of them would make the Thin Man's job that much easier. Why go fight Mono again? Just send out 20 Bullies and it's over. One drawback of the Bullies is still similar to humans. Their mind is open to change. However, this issue didn't seem to be a problem before the Porcelain Children. People are the only thing that could potentially stop the Thin Man. A rebellion is the only option to stop control. When people get hungry, then they are more willing to listen. But they might turn if there are better resources available. Although, the Bullies don't have this issue. Fear should be more than enough to keep them in check. With a mass-produced dispensable army, there would be no opposition. Then their name would be fitting. The ones who beat down on those who oppose his rule. Bullies. One thing I didn't mention is the Bullies' design has a lot of educational value. I think when we see how impressionable the porcelain children are in game, it gives us a glance into real life as well. Systems of control are very scary, and we should constantly analyze the structures we inhabit, or else we might become the Bullies. Let me know down in the comments what you like or dislike about the Bullies. Who's your favorite Little Nightmares enemy? Thanks. Have a good one.